Before the era of English football superstars, before Cristiano Ronaldo, Thierry Henry, or even Wayne Rooney, there was a man who changed the Premier League forever, Eric Cantona. His name was not only synonymous with talent and genius on the pitch, but also with an explosive personality and an aura of legend that would follow him forever. Our story begins in France, where a young Cantona grew up with raw talent and an intense passion for football. The son of a family of Catalan origin, he learned from an early age that life required struggle and determination. His first big step into professional football came at Auxerre, a club where his refined technique and aggressive style began to attract attention. But as quickly as his talent grew, so did his reputation as a temperamental player. Cantona was never your average athlete. He argued with coaches, fought with teammates, and was even suspended from French football after throwing a ball into the stands in a fit of rage. Many doubted that he would have a stable future in the sport. Then came the turning point. In 1992, after a brief stint at Leeds United, Cantona overcame the rivalry and signed for Manchester United. Manager Sir Alex Ferguson, always on the lookout for unique talents, saw something special in the Frenchman. Maybe it was his arrogance. Maybe it was the sparkle in his eyes. What no one could have imagined was that this signing would change the fate of the club forever. When he wore the Red Devils shirt, Cantona became the symbol of Manchester United's revolution. His presence on the pitch exuded confidence, and his style of play, combining refined technique with fearless aggression, made him one of the most feared and respected players in the Premier League. With every precise pass, every masterful goal, he won over fans and silenced critics. But Eric Cantona was never just about football. He was an artist on and off the pitch. His famous raised collar, his defiant gaze, and his leadership attitude made him a true icon. With Cantona at the helm, Manchester United not only began winning trophies, but changed the mindset of English football, paving the way for an era of dominance that would last for decades. After his arrival at Manchester United, Eric Cantona quickly became the team's maestro. But his influence went beyond goals and assists. He changed the team's mentality, bringing with him a winning spirit that would form the basis of Sir Alex Ferguson's glorious era. Cantona not only played well, he made everyone around him improve. His precise passing, vision, and intimidating presence on the pitch gave United a new identity. Under his leadership, the team won the Premier League title in 1992-93, ending a 26-year wait for English football's top trophy. The following season, Cantona shone even brighter. He was not the team's top scorer, but he was the brains behind the decisive plays. His charisma and confidence were so great that when he walked onto the pitch with his collar up, he looked like a king ready to dominate the game. But, as always, his genius was accompanied by an explosive personality. In several on occasion, Cantona got into heated arguments with opponents, referees, and even his own teammates. For him, football was war, and he would not accept losing. It was during this period that some of his most enigmatic quotes emerged. When asked about his provocative attitude on the pitch, he replied with a mysterious smile. "When the seagulls follow the fishing boat, it is because they think that sardines will be thrown into the sea." What did he mean by that? No one knows for sure. But it was precisely this unpredictable and enigmatic air that made Cantona a unique character in football. In the 1994-95 season, Cantona was at his peak. He was already the greatest player in the Premier League, and Manchester United remained the team to beat. But it was at this moment that history took an unexpected turn. A controversial event would change the career of the King of Old Trafford forever. January 25, 1995, was one of the most controversial moments in football history. Manchester United were playing Crystal Palace away from home, and Eric Cantona, as always, was the center of attention. But this time, it wasn't for a brilliant goal or a masterful pass. In the second half of the match, after a dispute for the ball, Cantona got into a fight with defender Richard Shaw. The referee didn't hesitate and showed him the red card. Direct expulsion. Cantona, already irritated with the refereeing and the truncated game, began to walk slowly towards the exit tunnel. But then, something unexpected happened. From the stands, a Crystal Palace fan named Matthew Simmons began to violently insult him. The exact words have never been confirmed, but it is known that these were serious provocations, which affected the Frenchman's pride. And then, in a fit of rage, Cantona did the unthinkable. He jumped over the barrier and threw a flying kick at the fan. The scene shocked the football world. Never before had a player of his stature done something like that. The stadium fell silent for a few seconds, and then chaos broke out. Players, security guards, and members of the coaching staff rushed to break up the situation, while Cantona was taken to the dressing room. The repercussions were immediate. The English media demanded exemplary punishment. Manchester United, even knowing how important Cantona was to the team, had no choice but to impose an internal suspension. But the FA, English Football Association, went further. He was banned from football for 9 months and given a heavy fine. The suspension was a hard blow for Manchester United, who ended up losing the Premier League title to Blackburn Rovers that season. For Cantona, it was a moment of reflection. He could have simply walked away from English football, left it all behind and returned to France. But he was different. He had something to prove. While serving his punishment, Cantona trained hard and avoided the press. But when he finally spoke about the episode, his answer was as mysterious as his personality. When seagulls follow the fishing boat, it's because they think sardines are being thrown into the sea. What did that mean? No one knew for sure. But one thing was clear. The king of Old Trafford had not said his last word. After months of uncertainty and absence, Eric Cantona returned to the pitch like a king reassuming his throne. Old Trafford was bursting with anticipation. It wasn't just a return. It was a rebirth. His first touches on the ball showed that nothing had changed. The class, the vision, the audacity. And, as if written by fate, he led Manchester United to an unforgettable season. Decisive goals, brilliant passes, an imposing presence. By the end of the 1995-96 campaign, United had won the Premier League and the FA Cup. Cantona was back, and with him, the club's glory. The following year, a new challenge arose. With the departure of Steve Bruce, Cantona inherited the captain's armband. Now, he was not only the team's star player, but its absolute leader. Under his guidance, Manchester United won the league once again, breaking Liverpool's dominance in English football once and for all. His imposing style, with his shirt collar always up, became a symbol of his unshakable confidence. He was not just a player. He was an entity, a force that dominated the pitch. But then, something unexpected happened. At the height of his career, at just 30 years old, Cantona surprised the world by announcing his retirement. Fans were in disbelief. There were still more chapters to be written on the pitch, but he chose to leave at the right time, leaving behind an immortal legacy. Away from football, he reinvented himself as an actor. The charisma that had charmed him on the pitch now shone on the silver screen. He had appeared in several films, including Looking for Eric, where the idolatry of his fans was transformed into art. But Cantona never limited himself to a single definition. His enigmatic phrases, full of metaphors, continued to resonate. When the seagulls follow the fishing boat, it is because they think that sardines will be thrown into the sea. A riddle? A provocation? It was simply Cantona being Cantona. His time on the pitch was short, but his mark was eternal. He not only transformed Manchester United, but helped shape the modern Premier League. The impact of his presence transcended football, becoming an icon, a legend that will never be forgotten. In 1996, a new era began for Manchester United, and at the heart of it was Eric Cantona. With the departure of Steve Bruce, it fell to the Frenchman to take on the captain's armband, a symbol of leadership and responsibility. Cantona was not just a star on the pitch, but a guide, someone who inspired with his talent, his attitude, and his relentless desire to win. With his collar up and his defiant gaze, he didn't just command his teammates. He made them believe that nothing was impossible. In that 1996-97 season, Manchester United once again showed their supremacy. Cantona was the maestro, the brain and soul of the team. On the pitch, he delivered magical passes, scored decisive goals and led by example. The confidence he instilled resonated in each player. United marched steadily towards yet another Premier League title. But there was something else at stake. Liverpool had held the title of England's greatest champion for decades, but with yet another title won, Manchester United finally broke that hegemony. The weight of history had shifted, and Cantona was one of the main reasons for this turnaround. He wasn't just a winning player. He was the captain who helped redefine the greatness of the club. With the trophy in hand, Cantona cemented his name among the greatest to ever wear the red shirt. But for the Frenchman, football was not just about numbers and trophies. It was about passion, art, and a certain touch of rebellion. His reign at United was nearing its end, but his legend was already immortalized. Eric Cantona did not need words to impose his presence. His defiant gaze, his imposing posture, and, above all, his raised collar spoke for him. It was a simple gesture, but loaded with meaning. While other players folded their shirts in the conventional manner, Cantona raised his collar like a king adjusting his crown. It was not just an aesthetic detail. It was a symbol of his fearless personality, his unshakable confidence, and his indomitable spirit. On the field, his style of play was as striking as his image. He moved with elegance, controlled the ball masterfully, and distributed passes as if he were painting a work of art. He played with the arrogance of genius, knowing he could change the course of a match with a single touch. His goal against Sunderland in 1996, when he paused to contemplate his own genius before raising his arms in triumph, became one of the most iconic moments in the Premier League. The raised collar became an emblem, an inseparable feature of his identity. It was a silent warning. Cantona was there to dominate, to decide, to be the protagonist. Others tried to imitate him, but no one could replicate the aura he carried. His style transcended football, becoming a cultural symbol. He was not just a player, he was a figure who seemed to have stepped out of an epic, a character in a tale where confidence and irreverence walked hand in hand. Every time he stepped onto the pitch with his collar raised, Eric Cantona showed the world that he didn't just play to win, he played to make history. And he did. The world of football was still waiting for new chapters in the story of Eric Cantona. At 30, he was at the peak of his form, captain of Manchester United and a reference on and off the pitch. But in May 1997, the unexpected happened. Cantona announced his retirement. Without fanfare, without long goodbyes. Just a firm and definitive decision. The king abdicated the throne, leaving fans, teammates, and even his own opponents in a state of shock. Why stop so soon? That was the question that echoed through the corridors of Old Trafford and beyond. He could have played for more years, won more titles, continued to shine as one of the greatest in the Premier League. But Cantona was never predictable. His relationship with football was intense, but he never stuck to the rules of the game. For him, magic lay in the unexpected, in the freedom of choice. And, at that moment, his artistic soul called him to new horizons. Alex Ferguson tried to convince him to stay. The fans clamored for another season, but Cantona was determined. His legacy was intact. His story had already been written with strokes of genius and irreverence. In his farewell, he left a letter to the fans, thanking them for their love and support, but without revealing much about his reasons. As always, Cantona spoke between the lines, leaving room for mystery and interpretation. Football lost an icon on the field, but gained an eternal legend. Cantona left at the peak of his powers, as few have managed. Without decline, without a drawn-out goodbye. Just one last defiant look and the certainty that his presence would never be forgotten. Away from the field, Eric Cantona did not disappear. He simply found a new stage. If in football he enchanted with goals and brilliant passes, in cinema he sought another form of expression. It was as if his artistic soul, always present in his way of playing, had finally found a definitive space. After retiring from football, Cantona threw himself headfirst into the seventh art, immersing himself in a world where he could still be a protagonist, but this time without the ball at his feet. His first steps into film were natural. His charisma, his intense gaze, and his magnetic presence translated well to the screen. He took part in several French films, exploring roles that suited his enigmatic and intense personality. But it was in 2009 that his name shone brightest on the big screen with Looking for Eric, a British film directed by Ken Loach. The story followed a Manchester United fan postman who, amidst life's difficulties, began to have visions of Cantona, who advised him with his peculiar philosophy. The film was a tribute to his influence, showing how he had become more than just a player. He was an idol who transcended generations. Cinema allowed Cantona to continue his journey as an artist. Just as he did in football, he played his roles with authenticity, bringing his own essence to each scene. I never wanted to be just another ex-player trying to reinvent himself. He wanted to express himself, create something new, leave his mark as he had done on the field. His second act in life did not erase the first. On the contrary, it only reinforced what everyone already knew. Eric Cantona was never just a football player. He was, and always will be, an artist in his very essence. Eric Cantona was always more than a football player. On and off the field, his presence transcended the obvious. And, in addition to his refined technique and striking style, he cultivated something rare in the world of sport. An enigmatic aura, fueled by philosophical phrases and enigmatic statements that defied any simplistic interpretation. The most iconic of all came after the infamous flying kick against a fan in 1995. In his first public appearance after his suspension, Cantona made no apologies or lengthy justifications. He simply uttered a phrase that left journalists and fans perplexed. When seagulls follow a fishing boat, it's because they think sardines are being thrown into the sea. And then he got up and walked away, leaving a trail of mystery. What did that mean? Was it a metaphor for the persecution of the press? A critique of sensationalism? Or simply a provocation from someone who has always preferred the unpredictable to the obvious? What is certain is that the phrase has become one of the most legendary in the history of football, repeated and analyzed as if it were a verse from an enigmatic poet. But that wasn't the only time Cantona turned his words into enigmas. He spoke about football as if he was speaking about life, with phrases that mixed philosophy and provocation. For him, the game wasn't just about winning and losing. It was about passion, about creation, about art. And like any artist, he liked to leave his work open to interpretation. Cantona was never just a player. He was, and still is, a football thinker, a football poet, someone who preferred to leave questions hanging rather than ready-made answers. Despite only playing in the Premier League for 5 seasons, Eric Cantona left an impact that resonates to this day. He not only helped transform Manchester United into a dominant force, but he also redefined what it meant to be a star in English football. His influence went beyond goals and trophies. He brought a new level of confidence, personality, and winning mentality to the club. Cantona was the player who paved the way for Manchester United's era of success under Alex Ferguson. His presence shaped the team's identity and inspired generations of players who came after him. His legend lives on among fans, who still chant his name from the stands, remembering the magic and charisma he brought to football. But his legacy is not just at Manchester United. Cantona was instrumental in the growth of the Premier League as a global spectacle. His arrival marked the beginning of the league's transformation into one of the most popular and competitive in the world. His style of play, his attitude, and even his iconic quotes helped define what was expected of a true Premier League star. And so Cantona went on his way, leaving football early but never forgotten. His presence, his philosophy, and his boldness continue to inspire players, coaches, and fans around the world. He was not just a star, he was an icon, an artist, and, above all, an indomitable spirit. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed this story about Eric Cantona, be sure to check out our previous video where we talk about another legend who changed football. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications for more inspiring stories from football legends. Thank you all and see you next time.